So let's see. Does everyone have access to the agenda?
Yep.
Now I know we have our newly appointed members, but we're going to do that after, I guess it's third. Okay, so from oral communication, do we have any for that, Ellie?
Yes, we do. I am just
right.
pulling that document up right now, and we have a few comments that should be read into the record. And so the following comment is by elementary certificated staff member Brannon Dorsey. FUSD needs to set a minimum standard of technology in each classroom. This should include up-to-date document cameras, a projector, laptop, etc. Educators should not have to write grants through Donors Choose, rely on PTA, or self-fund for basic necessities to do their jobs. When these items break, there should be readily available backups. Equipment should not be piecemealed together. Next comment is by elementary certificated staff member Jay Lafferty. There should be a standard minimum level of instructional technology equipment that is provided to every classroom. Currently, there is significant variance across classrooms and schools in terms of available technology. All of the students deserve instruction that is enhanced by technology. Every classroom should have a document camera and a digital projector or smartboard. These devices should be provided by the district so that they will be available to all rather than only being available when there has been extra funding or donations. Next comment by certificated elementary staff member L. McGee. I have worked in this district for 28 years. I have scrounged around, did Donors Choose projects, and paid out of my own pocket for technology for my classroom. Wouldn't it be nice if our district had a standard of technological needs that every teacher would receive or have updated when needed? Every teacher needs a computer, projector, and a document camera. These should be the basics for every classroom and updated periodically. This is a priority in most districts and should be one of ours also. Certificated staff member A. McCauley writes, can the district please enable Google Takeout so that students graduating or leaving FUSD and teachers who are leaving or retiring can save their important Google Drive docs, sheets, and slides? If that's not possible, please provide direction about how they are supposed to save these files in bulk. Saving this many files individually is not practical. And finally, certificated staff member at the secondary level, A. McCauley, writes, I'm sorry, this is the second comment by the same individual. Can we, staff, please get an update on when or how training for Infinite Campus Gradebook will be provided? Will teachers continue to be able to test Infinite Campus Gradebook over the summer, as Dawn's recent email indicated that we can do now? Has there been any progress on replacing the learning management team feature that we currently rely on in School Loop, or on figuring out a way for librarians and counselors to send large group emails to students as we currently do in School Loop? And with that, that concludes public comment.
Thanks, Ellie. So I just want to confirm that I'm correct in saying we don't respond to public comment, right? We just take it into consideration. I mean, we just know, and then we use that moving forward to use that information.
We just take that into our minutes.
Okay, just making sure I'm on the right track here with my filling in.
You are on the right track.
All right. So after oral communication, we need to approve tonight's agenda, and everyone should have access to that. So does anyone want to make a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Tom Burbeck, thank you so much.
Can I ask an agenda-related question? Just point of order, can I ask an agenda-related question? I wasn't sure now what our procedure is, because it used to be different. How do we get items added to the agenda if we wish to do so?
This one,
I think we give them to,
Dawn, I can
sorry.
take this. So this is our first meeting of the new committee. So I did not put anything new on the agenda besides introductions and, you know, letting the new members know what TAC does and what their responsibilities are. So in the past, what I have done is I have, as you well know, what I have done is I have sent the agenda out prior, asking for any other comments on the agenda before I published it.
Okay, thank you. It's especially important because we can't respond to oral comment that they're like, just people be clear how
Right,
to
and-
get something on the agenda if needed. Yeah.
Right, and so with that public comment, we can go back, and if they're important enough issues, which they are, they can be put on an agenda come the beginning of the year.
Thank you.
And quite honestly, I'm wondering if some of that information, well, Allison, I'll just say some of that information may be brought up during either Lucas's update, or he's asked me to talk a little bit about Infinite Campus Gradebook. So we might see that organically some of that gets taken care of.
No, that totally makes sense. I'm just, trying to figure out if people need an answer, what's the way to make sure that happens. So
yeah, and
that's good.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have a second for tonight's agenda?
I'll second Robert.
Thanks, Robert. Any discussion? All right.
One minor note is that we usually discuss the calendar, list the meetings, especially for the new people. But we can, and usually the dates.
Calendar last meeting.
Right, but we usually discuss. Yeah.
Am I the only one having trouble hearing Linda?
Yeah, I couldn't hear her either, but I think she's saying we discussed it at the last meeting.
I haven't said. Yes.
That there would not be an issue just reviewing that when we are looking at the orientation. Just reference people to the website, which has the dates on it.
Sure. And I was reviewing the bylaws, since that's my main job today, and it is spelled out in the bylaws that we actually vote on the meeting dates to make sure everyone is in sync. We don't have to do that, but because last meeting we didn't have 3 members there.
Okay, so are we ready to vote approval for the agenda for tonight?
Yes.
All those in favor, I guess say aye. And
Aye.
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 So is anyone saying no or abstaining? Because otherwise I'm just going to put full everyone. Is anyone abstaining? And any nays or no?
Point
Are
of
the new
order.
members voting?
Yeah, new members have to abstain, correct? Or no?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, or is it just the minutes or the agenda as well?
This is approving the agenda. We're not at,
Are the new members allowed to?
no, they can't approve the minutes because they weren't at the meeting.
The current motion is specifically for tonight's agenda, however.
And that's what my question was about. Yeah.
So I think that passes with, looks like we have, well, there's 17 minus Luis would be 16 minus Lucas and trustee Prasad. So that's 14, right? How's my math? All right, thanks, Allison. All right, so next on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes from May 3rd. Full transparency, I already gave Ellie a few changes. So have those of you who attended the meeting last month had a chance to review the minutes? Awesome. Anyone want to make a motion to approve those minutes? Am I allowed to make a motion if I'm being the chairperson?
No.
It's Bart. I'll make a
Yep.
motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Bart. All right, we have a motion. Any second? Thank you, Michelle. Any discussion? All right, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye, you can raise
Aye.
your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so now we're gonna have fewer than 14, right? Because okay, so any nays? And then how many abstentions do we have? People who weren't here last month. So we have our new members. So that's 1, 3. Okay, so that's 13 then, right? All right. Moving right along. Old business, do we have any old business? I don't see any listed there.
None on the agenda.
Okay. So new business, the first thing we're gonna do is the introduction of our members. Are we gonna go around and introduce ourselves? Is that the plan?
Yes.
All right, so
Yep.
why don't we,
I'll start.
Why don't you run it, Dawn?
go ahead, Anne.
I'll start so that we all know what we're doing. My name is Ann Dameron. I am a school secretary and I've been on TAC for a while, and I represent the Classified School Employees Association. So your paraeducators, school secretaries, office assistants, attendance people, high school registrars, and clerical staff, and wonderful staff that work in the district office.
Thanks, Anne. Ellie, you want to go next?
I'd be happy to. My name's Ellie Wasser. I'm principal at Ardenwood Elementary School. I'm serving on my second year on the TAC as the FSMA representative. That's the Fremont Schools Management Association. And it's my pleasure taking minutes over the last year.
Thanks, Ellie. Lucas?
Yeah, I'm Lucas Bogle, the Chief Technology Officer for the district. I've been in the district now just under 2 years, so I've been serving on TAC the whole time. And the Chief Technology Officer functions as an ex officio member, so that means I'm a non-voting member.
Thanks, Lucas. Tom?
My name is Tom Burbeck, and I'm a social studies teacher at Centerville Junior High. And I am appointed, recommended by the CTO and approved by the superintendent for the position. And with the exception of Robert, I am the now currently the longest person on here. I was thought about it this today as my wife is retiring this year, and I was like, wow, it's just the years have flown by. This is my 18th year now. So, but I enjoy working, and seeing the progress is just incredible. The amount of technology we have progressed over my length and tenure here at Fremont. So,
Thanks, Tom. Juan?
Yeah, sure. I'm a parent member, so I have 2 kids. One is 10th grade, studying in Irvington. Another is 8th grade. Was staying in Horner High School, Horner Junior High. That will be going to Irvington next school year. So I've been with this committee for first year for a year. So my specialty is really in the IT project program management. Hopefully, my specialty can be of help to the team here. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Manjeet?
Yeah, I'm Manjeet. I'm a new member on the TAC, and I've been a parent of, thank you. I've been a parent of 2 students from Fremont School District. One of them is getting into 10th grade now, and the elder one graduated San Jose State last week. So I'm glad to be here.
Nice, welcome. All right, Robert.
My name is Robert. My kids have graduated. Last one came from Mission High School. So I'm semi-retired. So I still enjoy working with the committee here. It's a very good committee. I've been here since the beginning. I also serve on the Facility Advisory Committee.
Now, is it Arunaba? I think you're muted. There you
Yeah,
go. Did I say it
it's
right?
I go by Arun. That's the first
Arun,
name.
okay.
That is, yeah.
Thank you.
So thanks for having me here. I am a parent of 3 kids at Fremont Unified. My older one is a rising 9th grader, just entering high school, and I have twin boys who are at 1st grade, Gomes and Hopkins for now. On the technology front, yeah, I'm at a startup, and kind of my specialty would be network security. So hope I can contribute here as a community member and from a technology perspective.
All right. Well, welcome, Arun. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Chan. I teach kindergarten at Forest Park, and this is the start of my 2nd term on TAC. So this will be my 3rd year now on the committee.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Bart?
Hi there. My name is Bart Payne. I work at the district office. I'm the district web designer. I was a extended guest of the TAC for the first 4 years that I worked at the district. And then the last 2 years, I was a voting member. And so now I'm starting my 2nd term as a voting member. So entering my 3rd year as a voting member. And I also have 2 kids, one kid that just graduated a year ago, and then one who is a rising junior at Washington.
Thanks, Bart. Samira, welcome.
Yep. Thank you so much. Super excited to be part of the TAC. Thank you so much, Lucas, and the board for the election. Looking forward to this. Samira, I have 2 kids going to MSJ, one going to the 5th grade, the other one getting into 1st grade now, starting September. And I work at PayPal. I run engineering for all things consumer-facing products at PayPal, and by extension, Venmo as well. So if there is any issue with PayPal or Venmo, you know who to reach out.
All right. Thank you. Welcome.
Looking forward to this.
Michelle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Hartman-Gruber. I'm the SEIU representative, the other classified group at Fremont Unified. We represent the campus supervisors, the supply clerks, the custodians, our maintenance people. Who else am I forgetting? Our child nutrition workers and our bus drivers. They're the kind of the backbone there that keeps everything running behind the scenes. This is I think it's my 2nd or 3rd term, but I've had a break in between. Technology, for the classified people, a lot of times we're the afterthought. And so we're trying to, it's good to have a place here at the table to let everyone know that we need technology just as much, especially since there was about 7 years ago an initiative started by the district that they wanted to go paperless. Well, in order to go paperless, you need to have some technology in order to do that. And so, so here I am. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle. Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison McCauley. I'm a library media teacher at Irvington High School, and so I work with kids and technology all day. And I am the FUTA, or Teachers Union representative, on this committee.
Thanks, Allison. Vivek?
I'm Vivek Prasad. I'm also retired from FUSD from a kid perspective. Both my sons graduated a couple of years ago. Well, first I'd like to welcome all the new members and thank all the existing members that have been doing this for a while. This is a critical function. Robert, I've known he kind of recruited me into FUSD volunteering many years ago. So this is a great service that we are doing. Because technology makes life, or it's a backbone to make everything be more efficient and work well. So it's a huge responsibility on this team to be proactively looking out for what needs to be done. So thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Licari. I have been sitting on TAC for several years. I don't know how many years right now. It's got to be 8, I think. Anyways, I have 2 children in Fremont Unified. I have a rising junior and a rising freshman. Both will be attending Washington next year. And I come to TAC with kind of user interface, user experience, familiarity. So I look forward to working with everybody and figuring out how to move forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Linda. I guess I probably should have introduced myself. I'm Dawn Nagaro. I am an instructional coach in the curriculum and instruction department. I am an English teacher. I taught at Hopkins for 12 years. I taught high school a long time before that for 4 years. And I have 2 daughters who both went through Fremont Unified. And I had the privilege of having Robert's daughter many years ago. So there you go. I think Anita just came on. Anita, can you hear me? Maybe. You don't see her yet. Anita? All right, we'll give her a minute. Oh, you want to unmute and introduce yourself to the group, being we have our new members? My mic is not working. Okay. All right. All right. So at this point in our agenda, I'm going to turn it over. Oh, introduction of member. Okay. TAC orientation. Robert. I love that. It's got a name by it. Robert, I'm going to mute myself. And if you see Anita come on, maybe you could let her introduce herself.
Sure. So welcome to everyone. This committee has probably been around more than 10 years. Lucas sent out the bylaws, and so on page 1, there are our powers and duties that talk about what we can do and what we cover and why we're here. One of the main issues now is that the board relies on us heavily to provide feedback on issues related to technology. The district has grown, as Tom mentioned, 10, 20 years ago. All the schools were, on their own and fighting, taking care of themselves, and we're providing more resources. The staff has been, we had a ridiculously small staff many years ago, and now we're better. We have more people. Do you want to introduce yourself? Did you join us?
Oh, can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for your patience. I was having some technical issues. Hi, I'm Anita Balaraman. I am part of this technology advisory committee since a little over last year. Both my kids are products of Mission San Jose High, and I actually teach at UC Berkeley and have an education technology startup at UC Berkeley as well. So that's a little bit of introduction from me.
Okay, great, thanks. And the other reason for having this, well, among other reasons, one that's important to the rest of us is that it's a place where we can talk about technology. Some of us, when we first fought or asked for this committee, because we were trying to build our own networks, schools were building their own networks, and we want to talk to somebody about it, and there really wasn't anyone to talk to. So this committee serves as a central place for people to come together and bring up issues. That's one reason why we have oral communications. Teachers are raising issues. I would encourage everyone on this committee, parents and staff, to bring up issues that you are aware of and here. We won't discuss everything here. And we really don't have a process for that. In other committees, we vote so that there should be general interest in an issue, but this is one place where we can address issues in general, and that anyone can raise an issue. Regarding membership, the committee is divided fairly evenly between community and staff. We did add a student member in the past year. Did our student member join today, or they're still working on that? Student members.
I think they're supposed to figure it out when school starts. And so then they'll get that person going.
Oh, right. The fall. So for everyone else, staff and community members, we ask that you serve a 2-year term. And one thing that's important is that we have a quorum. We have a required quorum in order to have meetings, so we need at least half the people here. In the past, we've had issues almost every year when 1 or 2 meetings a year we would struggle, and we have canceled meetings in the past. So I really would ask that send out an email the day of if you have to, saying sorry, I can't make it today, and then the chair will decide whether we have enough quorum for the meeting. Now that the meetings are online, for the moment, it's not as big an issue. Of us, when we are in the office and we have to leave work early and we have to fight through traffic to get to the meeting, and then we find it's canceled, it's a little bit frustrating. So it'd be really helpful if we could, tell people ahead of time, hey, we can't, I may not be able to make it. And relate to that, we do ask that you serve a 2-year term, but if for some reason you find that you cannot serve on the committee anymore, we ask that you resign from the committee so that it's easier to maintain quorum. And in fact, last year was the first time that a parent actually resigned, and that's actually why we had an extra vacancy, and it made it easier to make quorum that way. As Lucas mentioned, he's an ex officio member. Vivek is also ex officio. He's a board trustee, so they don't vote, but they provide invaluable advice. Lucas is a liaison with the rest of the district office. Okay, one minor thing. We haven't had to do this before, but we do ask that everyone send the meeting. So we ask, it's okay to miss, a few meetings, but if you miss too many meetings, then we will, because it makes it more difficult to meet quorum, then we may remove you. We hope we don't have to do that. Any questions so far?
Robert, I have a question regarding that last point. We do have a single community member who did not meet the minimum threshold based off of that bylaw language. Are we addressing that during the orientation or possibly during the next section with the election of officers?
We can adjust it at any time. In the past, to be honest, we have not removed people, but I know last year one person finally decided to drop out. One person we did reach out to, and they said they would attend meetings more regularly. I mean, it's hard to get volunteers, so we still try to encourage them. It's not a black and white line. But yeah, we should be able to attend any meeting during the year, including today if you want to.
Lucas and then Linda.
Yeah, I think if I'm correct, Robert, we are not obligated to remove the person if they don't meet the attendance requirement. It's still up to the committee, correct?
Yes, right. And we would have to go through a process. We'd have to vote for it. We'd have to agendize it and so on.
Linda?
Yeah, and I've reached out to that member. I reached out to them this week, so I'm hoping to hear something back. If I don't hear back from the member, then we will need to put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you. Robert, are you running the election part too? Hint, hint.
I've had my hands up. Can I just?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Allison. I didn't see it. I apologize.
No. It's okay. I just wanted to say that because I know people watching can't see the chat, and sometimes people don't pay attention to the chat. I put the link to our TAC page website that Bart maintains in the chat. It has all the meeting links. I know I have trouble making meetings if I don't put them in my calendar like way in advance, so that the dates are on the website and it's at the link that I put in the chat.
Yeah, I have a couple of quick questions if it's my turn, or I don't know how you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
are you going to have these meetings online through next year, or is that something we decide? And okay, you can answer that and ask the next one, or wait if I have.
I seem to recall that for now we said we were gonna talk about it, right? Isn't that gonna come up later in Lucas's update? So just hold on to that thought.
So my second question was, does the Brown Act apply in any way to this committee? I don't think it does, but
Yeah.
I saw a link to the Brown Act. So what is that about?
Yeah, let me address that because that wasn't really part of the bylaws, but that's important. Understanding in the past, we've had this discussion a few times. My understanding is technically we are not subject to the Brown Act because we're not elected officials. Like the board of education, they're all elected, so they are legally required to follow the Brown Act. Having said that, since we started, the board has asked us to follow the Brown Act, and they do ask all the committees that I know about to follow the Brown Act, just to make sure that we are transparent. And so for new people, what that means is that we cannot, all discussions related to TAC should be done in this meeting, in person and not via emails. So for example, we have an email group and we use it to disseminate information because that's not a discussion. You can share information, but we ask that you do not share your thoughts, feedback, opinions, and what have you. Thoughts, opinions should be expressed in the meeting in a public manner. Now, of course, so the Brown Act means that we cannot have too many people. So there are 2 or 3 of you, or really technically any number less than quorum. As long as if you keep the number less than quorum, then whatever you decide as a group of 5 people, well, that's not enough to make it a district or a committee decision. You need a quorum of people to just make a decision on behalf of the committee. So as long as you keep the number involved in discussion less than the quorum, then you're okay. And technically, that also there's I don't remember the term, is what I call a daisy chain term. So if you have 3 friends are talking and one of them talked to 3 more friends and one of them talked to 3 more friends, and sooner or later you do reach quorum. So you have to be careful about that.
Okay, Samira and then Manjeet.
Yep, thanks. Probably my question is more to what is the process to go after, for example, what Ellie read in terms of the public comments? What happens next? Like, what do we do with those, and what is the process to act on them?
We'll talk about it at the end of the meeting. If one way is to, at the end of the meeting, when we ask, what do you guys want to talk about next time? That's one time to bring it up. Sometimes we do say during oral communication, yeah, let's agendize that. And sometimes Lucas and other people will talk about it if they're already planning to talk that day. We cannot talk about it today because it's not on the, so this is kind of part of the Brown Act. We're not supposed to talk about anything today that's not on the agenda, because if the public wants to talk about something, ahead of time, oh, there's a meeting on Monday where they're going to talk about this. And if it's not on the agenda, then they won't know. We have to give the public notice that we're going to talk about laptops or something else a few days ahead of time, so they have an opportunity to be aware of it and come to this meeting.
Okay, thanks. And and then the other process takes over in terms of us talking about that, and then there's got to be a quorum that decides a recommendation that goes to the board and so forth.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
So my question goes back to the attendance requirement. I see the next meeting on the agenda shows September 13. Would it be fair to assume that we have quarterly meetings, or it's just decided in one meeting when the next would happen?
And we
No, we
actually
haven't
have
kept-
the calendar for the whole year, and we're going to actually go over that.
Okay.
So you'll know all the meetings. And they're also posted on the district website.
It's just that we don't meet during the summer. Or that's why it's spanned.
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. All right.
Right, and by rule, it is usually the first Monday of every month. The reason that it's not the first Monday in September is because of school. I think actually the first Monday is also Labor Day.
Okay.
So by rule, most often, I think this year, all the meetings will be the first Monday of the month that we're in school.
Okay, so Samira, your hand is back up? Or did you just not put it? Oh,
Yeah, the
okay.
latter.
And then Lucas, I saw yours pop up, but now it's gone. Did someone else say something? You're good. Okay. Just don't want to miss any more hands. I missed Allison's. I'm trying to be more careful. Okay.
You're fine. Don't worry.
Okay. Robert, back to you.
I think I'm covered. If you do have, so one thing that we've done new in the last couple of years that we haven't, that is encouraging is that we form subcommittees for things that require more work. We can't get everything done sometimes within one meeting a month. So we do create subcommittees at the discretion of the main committee, and people are welcome to join that subcommittee if you want to look at something in more depth.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right. So now we have the election of officers. And how that typically works is we alternate whether it's a district person or a community person. So this year, it looks like we need the chair to be a district person, the vice chair to be a community person, and the secretary, whoever does it really, really well. Hint, hint. Because Allie's really good at it. No pressure though. So what do? Do we start with the chairperson? Ask for a district person to volunteer. Linda, how am I doing? Okay.
Can I just point of order? District means FUSD staff, not someone at the district office. Just in case anyone was confused by that.
All right. So any dying to be the chair for next year?
I'd like to nominate Allison. She did a great job for us last time.
I was going to remind you, I already did that. It doesn't help, does it?
You did such a great job. That's why I'm nominating you again.
Thank you, Tom.
So Allison, do you want to do it again? That's the question. Because if you don't, someone else will do it.
Is just someone else want to do it?
I would be willing to take a turn if no one else wants to do it. And I'm based on the look on Allison's face, I'm thinking she's a hard no.
Go for it, Tom. Go for it.
I think you would be good. Tom, I really, really appreciate that. But I would not mind if someone else.
I don't know, maybe Tom Burbeck wants to do it.
I hadn't thought about that. Well, I think this will be my last tenure for next couple of years, so maybe I will step up and.
All right. I nominate Tom Burbeck to be the chair.
Does that have to be seconded? I would second that.
So Lucas, you'll have to put up with me now communicating.
We're going to get to know each other a lot better. I'm looking forward to it. Well, assuming they vote you in.
Assuming they vote me in, yes.
All right, so do we go ahead and vote now? And okay, all in favor of Tom Burbeck as the chair for next year, say aye or raise your hand or something.
Aye.
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 There's no backing out now, Tom. Any no's? Tom's like, I don't know. Any abstentions? All right, so Tom will be the new chair. And now for the vice chair, it needs to be a community person. So anyone from the community want to do that? I did it this year and you probably didn't even know I was the vice chair, if that makes you feel better. Till today.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the vice chair basically is a backup for the chair. So if the chair isn't able to attend a meeting or run a meeting, like this evening, the vice chair would run it.
And so it's pretty straightforward. I mean, if I can do it, anyone can do it, right? Any vice chair? What happens if no one volunteers? Does it have to be a community person?
I think it's whoever doesn't step back fast enough. Oops, see, Ellie leaned forward there, you know.
If nobody will do it, I'll do it.
I nominate Linda. All right, vice chair.
Gee, thanks, Dawn. Jump
You're
right
welcome. I bet Ann's gonna second that for me. Yep, see that? Ann seconded it.
Thanks, Ann.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Or raise your hands or wave. Okay, any no's? Any abstentions? All right, unanimous. Thank you, Linda.
Don, I was typing there real quick. Who seconded that? Ann, was that you? Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, and then we need a secretary. So should I just ask you, Ellie, how you feel about doing it again? Are you sick of this job that you're doing?
My emotions would feel better if someone nominated me, but
I'll nominate
you, but I didn't want to.
I'll nominate him.
I think we will all nominate you, Ellie.
We were asking permission first, like I asked them first.
Yeah,
I'll
I
second
think
that.
everyone
Nominate
has
Ellie.
nominated and everyone seconded. You can put that in the minutes.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to continue taking notes if that's the wish of the TAC.
Awesome. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie.
All right, so we have
Bart has his hand up. I don't know if that's germane to the current point.
I think he was gonna vote.
Okay.
Yeah. So all in
Most.
favor of Ellie continuing to be our awesome note taker? Aye.
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 All right. Any no's? Any abstentions? Woohoo! Congratulations. All right. So thank you, everyone, for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Lucas for the CTO update.
I'm going to actually jump in for a second. Are we going to talk about the calendar? That was one thing that was halfway on, almost.
Sorry about
part of
that.
Yeah, it says old business 0, but I would think that would be old business, right?
Well, we technically should be voting on the calendar today.
Right.
We tentatively posted it last meeting. So,
Okay, so I
Robert
think that,
brought that up earlier.
Allison put it in the chat, right, Allison?
I think we need to go back to the minutes. We voted on the calendar at the last meeting.
Yeah, what I put in the chat is the TAC public facing webpage with which Bart posted, presumably from the last minutes, but that's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry for the interruption. We'll take Lucas.
So can the new people look at the meeting dates, and if they have any questions, can they let us know?
So I have 2 questions. Is it at the same time? And
yes.
I didn't check those dates exactly, but do they line up on Mondays?
They're always on Mondays.
Okay.
And pretty much it's the first Monday unless there's a holiday. And I know we did discuss, but I don't believe a decision was formally made about whether we're going to continue online or in person. And I know that Robert brought up a concern about online, but I don't know how we decide this.
I don't. I mean, maybe Lucas will know, but it's most likely going to be a board decision. I mean, the board is the one that decides to meet off, online as it is.
Okay, Lucas, you want to? I see your hand up.
Yeah, I think when it comes to meeting online, if we continue to follow Brown Act, that would mean that when restrictions are taken off, whether that be June 15th or whenever it is, then at a minimum, there would be a requirement for us to have an on-site space available. Now, I think one of the discussions that we can have as a TAC is, if we have an on-site location, do we want to allow remote participation? But certainly if the board said, no, they're not going to allow that, then we obviously be obligated to do that. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if the board will provide guidance to all of the committees. So I think I guess I can reach out to them, or Trustee Prasad, you can talk with the rest of the board as well and give us guidance when the time comes.
Yeah, well, I think we should have what does this team prefer here? We need to, obviously the entire board will have to decide together, but from this committee perspective, do members want to continue to have online access available even when there's a physical space or a conference room at the district for these meetings?
I see a lot of hands. Let me go with Linda, and then Allison, and then Anita.
So I know I made the comment last meeting, but of all the years that I have been on TAC, this was actually the first year that we did not have to cancel a meeting due to not meeting quorum. We met quorum every meeting. And I mean, I know, Robert, one of his comments, was if, all of us are rushing back from work and, we'd like to know if the meeting's going to happen or not. Being that it's remote does make it a little bit easier that everybody doesn't have to, hop in their car at dinner time or in the middle of dinner to get down to the district office. I know that's super hard to make this a public, to be able to have public comment live and have people actually listen to what's going on in person. I know that's very difficult doing it this way. So it's just my comment that, it's just been easier to attend meetings having them this way.
It was me, right, Don?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to wholeheartedly second that as a teacher and a FUD rep on this committee. I live 5 minutes from the district office, and I would totally be willing to go down there and be in a conference room with a computer so that someone, people from the public could come in and participate if they want to. If that was sort of the Brown Act compromise for during COVID, was that there had to be, a possibility for people to come in person if they wanted to. But I think I am very atypical. Most teachers cannot afford to live in Fremont, 5 minutes from the district office. And a lot of them live very far away. They live in Oakland and Livermore and stuff like that, and they have small children. So for us to participate in a meeting that starts at 7 p.m. in the town that we work at when we live 45 minutes away is very hard. And so I would, even if it required me having to go be the person in the room or whatever, I would so be willing to do that if we could keep these meetings more accessible. Even our PTSA has been better attended at my school. I don't know about you guys, since we've been doing things on Zoom. So I know I have a little screen fatigue, but I think it's just accessibility is the most important concern.
Okay, Anita?
I would actually echo that. And for me, it's not the question of home being not in Fremont. It's more work being not in and around this area. So for me to get to, and I've been late several times, rushing or getting stuck in traffic. So as a parent volunteering on this, I really appreciate the flexibility to be able to call in. Is what I'd say. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go Michelle and then Arun.
Of all the this
Can't hear
committee,
you.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, sorry. For all the committees that exist at Fremont Unified, this is the one committee that should be an online situation. I mean, how else we're dealing with technology? And I understand with the Brown Act, and even though that we're not technically in Brown, but we've been asked to be in Brown, which is just talking about transparency. It just keeps it, especially in the fact that we have liaisons from the school board with Mr. Prasad here. I would, if there's a way that we could, I'm thinking of resolution, but it's not a resolution, but just maybe a statement to the Board of Education of saying when you consider, maybe we could format something like that, that when you consider that if everyone is to go with the new rules, that we continue to be able to offer this online and come up with some sort of way to cover all our bases, whether we have a laptop sitting at the district office or something. So that would be what I would urge our committee to do if within the parameters of saying, hey, this is the one, keep it online, because it really has improved participation. And with the participation, that's where we get the ideas and we get the bank of brains that are out there that help everything. But when you're canceling meetings because people can't get to the meeting on time, they're stuck in traffic, they're starving because they haven't eaten since 9 o'clock in the morning, those are things that's not worth it. So let's let the Board of Education know formally this is what we are sending up to them.
Okay, thanks. So Arun and then Tom.
No, I do agree with having the online format available, even if someone chooses not to opt for it. It is very handy for circumstances like you need something just came up and I can just take it from office instead of having to drive and sit in traffic. I personally would probably come in 50% of the time. It's just easier to build relationships in a room than online. But I think it's definitely very important for this and pretty much every other committee to have that online option.
Okay, thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I was going to say it for me, it's two parts. It's interesting that, like Robert, I've been here for quite a while, and believe it or not, we've actually had more communication from community, whether it's staff, on this online forum than we ever had. I mean, I'm trying to remember once or twice did we ever have somebody come to our in-person meetings. So I think that perhaps Allison does make a case where maybe we could rotate, that there would be people on site, that if somebody did want to come and, live. But I think that this actually increases the ability of the community to participate in the beginning of the meeting. So I think there's that advantage as well. And as Linda said, I could speak, I live in Livermore, and there's nothing more frustrating than staying for 3 hours after and then sitting in there, and then there's 5 of us sitting at 7 o'clock at night, and we've now found out that the meeting is canceled. So I think there can be a compromise here where the greater community as a whole is served.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, Samira and then Anne.
Yep, I wholeheartedly support having that flexibility online. I think I strongly feel it is absolutely the right thing to do, to be inclusive and to allow participation no matter where it comes from. And I think it's a great way for us to get our own dog food in that sense, to to the point that was made earlier, to test out these technologies, what works, what does not, because some of these are here to stay, and we just need to make sure that we are ahead of this, especially as this committee. So absolutely, and again, as Alison mentioned, happy to take turns being the person to be able to facilitate this. But I think that's absolutely the right thing to do.
All right, thank you. So if you've already spoken and you didn't put your hand back down, it would really help my brain. So that Anne and Manjeet and then Vivek.
I agree with lots of the different comments, community participation, pretty much everything. I just, my concern is that a lot of information is going into the chat, and the public who is watching the live streaming cannot see the chat. So whatever decision is made, perhaps, related to Brown or whatever, there needs to be some sort of understanding about what the chat, will be used for or something. And as this platform continues to make improvements, that may change.
Thank you, Anne. Manjeet?
Yes, so from what I've heard earlier, since I'm just a new parent here, so what I hear is that over the last year, the participation has improved. So that's already been demonstrated that being online can help with that. The only concern now remains is that if there is any compliance requirements, I hear the board has to approve it. So sometimes compliance requirements are not very flexible. So if we can get an authoritative answer upon that, like, is there a need for us to be on premises? That's when we can probably step forward and make a decision on that.
Okay, thank you. Vivek?
I see more hands up, so let's complete those and then I'll go.
I think everyone whose hand is up has already been called. They just didn't put it back down. Oh, Bart. Sorry, Bart. Bart just popped up.
No
Bart?
worries. A couple technical pieces to it since we are the technology advisory. One of the big benefits is by running it through Meet, Ellie does get a complete transcript. So doing his awesome minutes is also supported by automatic transcripting plugin for that. So I'm sure that has been helpful over the year. And we have captions on Google Meet. We don't normally have captions with Zoom, or we have to pay for captions. So there's a updated or a more accessible piece there too. So if we did have issues around the chat, we could just say no chatting. Let's just put this out. If you do need to speak, raise your hands, and we turn that off so that we continue to keep the transparency really high. And a lot of people have never known what the Technology Advisory Committee does, but now there's probably a handful of other folks that have actually stumbled across the stream or the recordings, and they can go find out all that good stuff.
Thank you, Bart. Tom, you still had a comment, or your hand is just, I don't know if it was back up or you're good? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Well, I see. Samira, you have more comments?
Yes, sorry, just one quick point, and especially, and I live and breathe these every day in terms of content moderation and privacy and the whole 9 yards. That's probably one aspect that I think we should consider as we especially recommend this and lean in more towards everything online, the CCPA and the whole 9 yards of what we need to be on top of. I think probably as part of this recommendation, it might be good to have a perspective and a point of view on some of these things so that it's a holistic recommendation we make, which factors all these points in.
Thank you.
Yes, this was a great discussion. So I see all the hands are done. So great discussion. And the reason I asked for this feedback is that we can then we can collect this from all the committees. So personally, my preference would be to keep this enabled. right? And to Samira's point, based on Brown Act, everything that is done here is all public. So the privacy concerns and all are not very applicable, but we should look at it. So we'll ask for, I mean, as this comes to the board, we'll ask staff to weigh in and look at all the applicable regulations and make sure that we are clear. And like so many people said, we are, this committee should be on the cutting edge of technology. And we have discussed many times how, let's say, hybrid classroom would work, or when technology becomes a barrier. So let's use this to also enable technologies. And Alison, thanks for volunteering to be there, but hopefully we just don't have one person at the district office, right? So that as we are getting students in class, the more we can also be there, that will be good. But it should be a combination of rotating people on site as well as remote. And I can tell you there are so many times I'm driving from one campus to another, and I'll start the call in the car, and then 10 minutes later show up in the meeting room. So the convenience of having remote access cannot be minimized. And obviously, what Bart mentioned, we can help Ellie with this big transcript. Now he'll have to edit a 50-page document every time, though. So we have to be careful what we wish for. So overall, to me, this is efficiency, and we can actually path clear many things with this partial in-person, partial remote attendance. So yeah, so my preference would be to keep it going.
All right, thank you. Any final comments on this topic? Otherwise, I'll move it on to Lucas's CTO update. I don't see any more hands. Vivek, you were done, yeah? Just making sure it didn't pop back up. All right, so Lucas.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Looks like we're going to be stepping into summer. Oh, am I no sound?
You're dropping off a little bit.
Okay, hold on one second.
So anecdotally, one of the few daycares on a Fremont Unified campus that has been open this year is in Niles. And the kids there that attend, there are about 25 of them, have this problem all the time because it's Niles. So as we're working through all these concepts of technology and access and things, we always need to remember that connections in Niles aren't so great, right, Lucas?
I am in Niles, that is correct. Is that better? So we're not going to have any issues, hopefully. All right. Well, I have actually a little bit bigger CTO update tonight than I had originally thought I was going to have, because I want to provide a little bit of background for the new members of some of the things that we did this year. And I had already planned to talk about some of the public comment as well. So I'm just going to get started. So one of the projects that the Technology Advisory Committee has been working on for the last 2 years was updating the student use of technology policy. And I'm pleased to report that the school board has officially approved that. So that was a lot of work, a lot of collaboration on the committee. It took a little bit longer than we anticipated, but the old policy was from 1997, which some of you may not know that, but that's the year I graduated from college. So, and things were a little bit different then. So that's a pretty big accomplishment for the committee. And I think, me personally, I'm very excited about making some improvements on it. One of the things I mentioned to the board when I had the first read of it was that the first round of the policy really was focusing on just getting the minimum requirements in to reflect current laws and regulations. But what I would like to see the Technology Advisory Committee do next would be working on actually looking at the things that students should be doing in a really positive respect. So rather than just talking about the things that students shouldn't be doing, talking about what they should actually be doing. So that's kind of the next direction that I'm looking for as we work on the policy, probably this coming year. The other thing, if you recall, we wrote into the policy that we would review the policy regularly. And me personally, I would like to be reviewing that every year. Even if we don't take any action on it, I think it's important that we do that. So one of the important pieces that the Technology Advisory Committee talked about, and we've actually been talking about it before I came here, was student email accounts. And the new student use of technology policy supports that. And so as part of that conversation, the Gmail accounts will be turned on officially in preparation for summer school. And I sent out most of the communications today. And because summer school still happens in the 2020-2021 school year, we had to send out a special opt-out form. For next year, for the 2021-2022, the student parent handbook will provide the option to opt out of the Google Workspace for Education suite. And as part of that suite, Gmail is part of the core services. So that was a really, really important step. Students have been asking for it. Staff members have been asking for it. Believe it or not, student email has been around since the 1960s. It was pretty primitive back then. But so we're finally adopting a technology that's been around for a little while. Let's put it that way. I think it's going to be a really positive thing for our students. And that leads us to a pretty big change that we are making, which is moving away from the School Loop gradebook. And there's a variety of reasons for it, but we are moving to using the Infinite Campus gradebook, which also has LMS functionality built into it. It also has integration with Google Classroom, which was one of the downsides of School Loop. But as you know, as parents, School Loop had a really valuable tool in it called Loop Mail. That said, now that we have student email accounts, we'll be able to use Infinite Campus to accomplish those same things. So it's a really important step forward. And as part of this tonight, I wanted to just show the members on this committee and also the public, if you haven't already seen that email for your student, there is some guidelines that we put together. And this is just our initial implementation of it. We didn't want to write these into a policy or an administrative regulation because we wanted to have the flexibility to change some of this if we needed to. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to present my window here. Oh, hold on. All right. I think everybody can see the presentation here. And yeah. I never did actually, I should have changed the date on this. But it just gives some basic information about the background for Gmail. Noting that the Technology Advisory Committee has been advocating for student email for many years. And obviously, I mentioned the other groups as well. Some of the benefits of Gmail. Building a learning community. One of the powerful things, of course, about having email is that it can be used to collaborate, particularly when it's utilized in conjunction with the Google Workspace for Education, which is part of the core services. And of course, this coming year, we'll be using it to communicate with students and families, and it prepares our high school students in particular for real world communication. Yeah, lots of really good things. And we'll also be using it, especially at the younger grades, for enhancing the use of educational applications. Some of our programs will provide feedback for students, and having an email account is another way that they can get that feedback. This next screen outlines the restrictions, both what a student can do and what they can't do based upon their grade level. One of the interesting things is that we are actually going to provide email accounts even for our early childhood students. We recognize that some of those students won't necessarily use it, but if they do decide to use that, it is going to be available. Of course, at the elementary level, it's extremely restrictive. So they will only be able to send and receive Gmail messages from FUSD staff or potentially receive notifications from applications. So
Lucas?
Very limited, yes.
I did have a question here only because I know we'll get it, is sixth grade students that are at the middle schools, will they be still in a walled garden, or will they be able to send to other students?
So at the middle school and junior high school, the students will have a walled garden, meaning they can't send to the outside world, but they will be able to email staff and students at their own school.
So other students, that'll be there, that's not, okay.
At their school only. So
At
they
their
will not be, yep.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. And then finally, of course, our high school students, they will be able to send and receive Gmail messages from the outside world. And there's obvious benefits to that for our students. The only restrictions, of course, is that they won't be able to email the students that are at other schools in the district at the elementary and middle school level. Okay, so that's that information. We've got a couple hands raised. Yes. Oh, did they go down? We've got Linda and Arun. Linda, go ahead.
So Lucas, just to be clear, you mentioned the high school, they can email between high schools. They just can't email to junior highs and elementary, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so they'll be able to among the 5 high schools or 6 high schools or 6 upper learning schools, they'll be able to email amongst themselves, just not lower.
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
So, so the main change we're making here is every kid has a FUSDK12.net user ID and now that gets an email attached to it. Is that the main change
That's
that we're,
correct.
okay.
Yep.
And is there any parental access to this email in the sense that can you link a parent email for supervision or otherwise to this, or it's not, there's no such provision?
Yeah, there's not a way for a parent to directly access it, but certainly if a parent were to reach out to the district and requested access, that is something that could be accommodated. But I think particularly for younger students, and at least my experience has been the case, is that, I would just sit down with my student and look at their email.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think at the elementary level that's great. I think once it gets to high school, there's a little bit of reticence in giving parents access to anything. But that's fine. Just getting information, yeah.
Yep. All right, Anita?
Lucas, I was wondering, after a student graduates, and maybe I missed this, after they graduate and leave, do they still take that Gmail address with them, or do they not?
They will not take the Gmail address with them. When a student leaves, we do inactivate their Google account, which will include their Gmail account.
Got it. Thank you.
And Ellie.
This is playing off Arun's question a little bit. But if a parent were interested in accessing their child's Gmail account and did that either by logging in with the child's username and password or sitting down with them, the child is not able to change their password in the same way that currently they would need staff assistance to change their G Suite account password. Is that correct?
That's correct. See, Allison, I'm not sure if you were next.
I'll make this super quick. I just want to, this is a comment, not a question. Just for people who aren't familiar with this, one of the reasons teachers are super excited about this is that there's all kinds of auxiliary things that become available when they have an email. For example, if you assign a quiz or another assignment using Google Forms, right now the kids can't get their results back because they don't have an email. Or when I have my students sign up for turnitin.com, which is our software that we use to check for plagiarism, they can't reset their passwords if they forget because they don't have an email. So this kind of unlocks a lot of things that are part of Google Suite that we currently don't have the ability to do. And for a teacher, when they give comments on Google Classroom, they think it's going to the kid and it's not. And it's very frustrating. So teachers are very, very excited about this change. And I just wanted to make that clear to folks that it's not just sending messages, it's other things.
I just want to mention time. We only have about 10 minutes left, so we might have to shorten up some of the comments.
Thank you, Allison. Samira?
Yep, I'll keep it brief. I think it's awesome, and there are two sides to this, and especially as a parent, it'd be good to articulate what controls parents have or what controls have been by default disabled. For example, would they be able to access YouTube with this account? And if so, what kind of videos can they watch and they cannot? What ads do pop up when they search for something, when they log in with this account on Chrome? Things like that, as a parent, I've been very, anxious for my fourth grader and my kindergartner who's getting into first grade as well, because these kids are so tech savvy that at any cost, they'll try to go figure out what they want to watch on YouTube, something to articulate. Maybe that information is already there, but something that'll be great to articulate to the parents.
Sure. I can respond to that real quickly. So yes, they do have access to YouTube, but it is in it's called strict safe search mode. So it's extremely limited what they have access to in terms of content. And then of course we have further content filtering as well beyond what Google has.
Cool, thanks.
Yep. Trustee Prasad?
So one concern that I have is if we turn off the email as soon as they graduate, students may be using the email address for communicating with their colleges and all, right? So there would be a continuity problem that I see here. So we should consider that. I'm not trying to advocate one way or the other, but I see that this could become a problem.
Sure. I would say one of the things we could come up with is some guidelines around when we inactivate a senior's account. The other thing is I think we need to be coaching seniors on using a personal email account, particularly for their college applications. My son just went through that process. This was his freshman year in university, and we made sure that he moved away from his school account to his personal account for all of his college apps.
It sounds good. But I think colleges, when students graduate from colleges, the EDU accounts are available for long term, right? So let's well, I mean, we don't have much time here today, but let's consider what options we may have for students.
Sure. Juan?
Yeah, just one quick clarification and maybe a question. I saw one sentence for the high school student. They can send and receive message from outside of the district. So just wondering, does it mean they can just pretty much send and receive email to anybody in the world, appropriate or inappropriate? Is there any restriction or automatic filter that's being built in place?
Yeah, so with our high school students, we believe that giving them full access to send email and receive email from the outside world is appropriate for their age level. And also based upon what I've observed, it is the most common practice if you talk with other districts around here. Obviously, Google has very good filtering and it catches most everything, but it is certainly possible if you have a student who connects with someone who might send them something inappropriate, it is possible. And that's why we have our student use of technology agreement. One of the things that we ask our students to do and our families to sign off on is if they receive something inappropriate, that they would let us know. And that's building that personal responsibility.
Got it. Thank you.
And Anne.
Earlier during public comment, we heard about staff leaving the district, and now we're talking about students leaving the district. And I'd like to see sometime in the fall agendized more information about that. Particularly, Michelle would probably agree with me, for many classified staff members, they don't quite understand their drive, their power. It's now that we're deeper into Google, particularly classified staff needs more training and support about how to use it now, lots of those things. So if we could get that on a fall agenda, Tom, it would be great.
All right, thanks, Anne. And let's see, it looks like we're back to Arun.
Yeah, one last question. At some point, I was trying to research why School Loop was not there for elementary schools. And the main reason was, if the principal wanted to send an email out to the whole school, you were going through lists of emails which were out of date. So are we going to auto-create groups based on emails and classes or grades or schools? Is that something you're planning on? Or
Yes. So one of the benefits of transitioning to email for students is, one, it integrates with Infinite Campus. So teachers can use Infinite Campus to send to their classrooms in the same way that they did with School Loop. But furthermore, of course, we will have the ability to send to groups within Gmail itself. And right now the plan is that there will be capability of sending school-wide and then down to the grade level, but not beyond that. Managing that is just a little bit too difficult at this time, and it's really an uncommon practice, I'll tell you that, within the schools. But having the ability to use the Infinite Campus Messenger tool as a teacher or as an administrator at the school site, or even from the district level, will accomplish that grade level communication. Also, Google Classroom has the capability of doing that as well.
okay. Well, in School Loop, I did appreciate getting a daily email with what my kid did in class, and I hope we can keep that with this Infinite Portal integration. In some ways, I did like it was a much better experience than in elementary, where the communication was it was basically teacher-driven. Some liked Google Classroom, some used Class Dojo, some used something else. I think most are on Google Classroom now. But it was a little disjointed. That's it.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I don't want to go into too much detail on it, but I think with Infinite Campus, one of the benefits is that you can set your own preferences as a parent to how often you want to get notifications. All right. I know we got to move pretty quick here. Anita?
I'm sorry, I didn't lower my hand from the last time. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Looks like all the hands are down. Okay. Let me finish up my update here. A lot of good questions, though. All right. So another big project that we closed out this year was our Voice over IP project. That was a project that took 4 years, but we are now officially almost 100% on our Cisco phone system. There's a few schools where we have some outliers in our maintenance and operation facility, but the major project has been closed out. So that was a big lift this year, getting that through to completion. The other thing I wanted to share As a reminder that this coming September, we will have a student member joining us. They choose that member in August at their meeting, so that's very exciting. And finally, just some future work possibilities, future agenda items, and especially related to the questions that the community members posed. One had to do with Google Takeout. And what I want to share with that is part of the reason that we don't have that enabled for students is it does not fall within their core services. So when it comes to data privacy, it's not protected in the same way that the educational version of Google is for those core products. And for a Google Takeout to be used for our students, and there is definitely a request from seniors to be able to do this when they leave. They want to be able to take the contents of their Google Drive, but it does require parent permission. So I think one of the things that the committee should talk about this coming year is the idea of whether or not we do that for our seniors and basically submit a form to the families that says, hey, are you willing to allow your students to use Google Takeout? And we have to do that unless the students are 18 or older, which of course doesn't make sense for us to manage that on a student by student basis. So that is something that I think we should be looking at as a topic this coming year. And another topic that I'd like to discuss with the group has to do with our student portal. So the new Infinite Campus student portal and the types of data that we would like to make available in there. We certainly are not going to be able to make everything available, but one piece that we could customize would be to bring in overdue book fees. And there's a whole lot more that we can talk about on that as well. Another component that we have not implemented yet is the Infinite Campus store. So currently the high schools have a separate store. And I think as a group, it would be worth it for us to have Infinite Campus come in and do a presentation on their store to see if it makes sense to integrate that with the both the student and the parent portals. And then another topic too is standardization of technology. And that was a topic I was going to just touch on real briefly here, even though it was brought up as well as one of the public comments. The district does have standards for the classrooms. But one of the things that some of you may not be aware is that we do not have a centralized purchasing model. So we have a standard document camera, we have a standard laptop, we have standard projectors, standard screens, but some of the schools have gone outside of that and they have purchased additional things on their own. And we definitely push our schools to stick with that standard, but that is why in some cases you'll see classrooms that don't necessarily have the standard equipment. One of the pieces that we added this year was a standard document camera that was more portable, so that especially when you had teachers who might come in and they might be teaching in spaces where they didn't normally teach, or they might want to use it for a meeting, we did approve that as well. But the district does have standards. It's just that the district budget isn't necessarily aligned with making centralized purchases. So the schools have what is called discretionary funding. And there are of course very good positive things about that. It gives the schools the autonomy to make some of the decisions that they want to make. But on the other hand, some schools also sometimes prioritize spending in technology a little bit more than others. So there's pros and cons to it. So we definitely have standards from a district perspective, but we try and work with the schools as well to accommodate the individualized needs of those schools. And that is my summary for tonight. Take it away, Dawn.
Lucas, you mentioned about the grade book. Did you want me to?
Oh, yes, indeed. Dawn, would you share a little bit more about the grade book and the trainings?
Sure, Lucas. I'll be real brief. So I recently sent an email to all secondary teachers that included about a 21-minute video on how to get started with the Infinite Campus Gradebook, like the basic first steps. Right now, the teachers have access to the gradebook in their Infinite Campus sandbox, so they can, play with the program and just explore and get used to it a little bit. Lucas was checking in to find out if after the school year ends, if the students will still be in their sandbox or not. Lucas, I don't know if you got the answer to that. But and I'll let him jump in a second. Other things that are happening is I am going to be training the summer school teachers and the secondary credit recovery team, and are going to be using it for summer school, and I'm going to train them. And then Lucas secured a stipend for sites where each site can have the train the trainer model. Well, they get to choose people from their sites to get trained in the gradebook. And then I will also be supporting those teachers as well. So we'll have people at the district who are, trying to stay ahead of things. And then someone from each site getting a stipend to get the extra training and support their teachers at their sites. Is that what you were looking for, Mr. Bogle?
Indeed. Thank you.
Right then.
And my understanding is that the students should stay in the gradebook in the sandbox until we actually put in the drop dates.
Okay.
But of course, this is our brand new student information system, and I'm only going based upon the feedback that I received from the help desk ticket. So that's the word.
All right. So to try to wrap things up here, we had a couple things that we have as potential future agenda items. Are we looking to add to potential future agenda items here? Are we looking for feedback on those? I'm not quite sure the intent of those items in the agenda.
Hey, Dawn.
Yes.
I have a quick question for Lucas, if I may. I know we're talking about Infinite Campus. That's the big thing. But I just want to make sure, since our next meeting isn't until September after school's already started, that TipWeb, which is a valuable tool for our schools with the checking in and out of books, that is on, that we don't turn it off during the summer, because there's a lot of things that are happening during the summer with in and outs of books and adding new books in and stuff like that. Is that going to be a problem this year, or are we going to be able just to pay for it for the full year and have them make sure that it's up and running in August?
Michelle, I know our data team has been working on TipWeb. Has that been an issue in the past where it wasn't available during the summer?
Last year when we had Maze Days at Irvington, we had no TipWeb. All 3 days of our books going out went without TipWeb being up, which meant that we had to go through and ask the students to put it into a Google form, and it all had to be hand entered in. It's not the greatest way to try and keep track of inventory. So that's why I'm just bringing it up now, that because there was different answers that I received at the beginning of the year of that, well, TipWeb it was a problem with TipWeb, and TipWeb was, then we heard that it was because TipWeb wasn't turned on at the right time, and it's like, why was it even turned off? So it should just remain on.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that, Michelle. I will talk with our data administrator to find out kind of what happened last year, and then also talk with them about availability during summer.
Great. And if you can pass on any information to me or to the group, that would be great. Thank you so much.
So Lucas, we are at 8:36. Do we need to figure out anything for future agenda items, or Tom Burbeck, our new chairperson? How do we want to work this? I'm just trying to get us off on time, which is already.
I actually was kind of looking, but now at the last minute, this is I guess the question is, and I apologize, and maybe Robert can speak to this as well. Is there an official policy in our bylaws as how items are added to an agenda? I mean, generally it's been kind of, we've said, oh, we want to talk about that, and it just made its way onto the agenda. But I think it's very likely that increasingly, even my tenure here, technology has become a great. I mean, when I started, in Fremont, we didn't have a computer in every classroom even. I mean, you know, there literally was like one computer in every 5 classrooms. It was only until we started taking attendance on, there was this all of a sudden need for computers. So I guess the question is, do we want to put on the agenda that we're going to talk about how things are added to our agenda so people don't feel left out? There was, you know, a couple of meetings ago, I got a little bit tense on how some things agenda. So we do have an official way that things are added to our agenda, and I guess add it to the agenda for next time so we could talk about how that process is. So everybody feels like they have an equal opportunity to add their things to the agenda. Now, obviously, if the board requests something of us, that is our primary mission. We serve to research or follow up the board requests. But that, to be honest, that happens occasionally, but more often either the CTO says it's an issue we need to deal with, or a member says, hey, this is something. Or as in the case of today, we had some public comments. I mean, I think something we've talked about over the years is there a minimum level of technology in a classroom, right? Should there be a document camera? Should there be? So I guess that's something I would like, and looks like there's some hands up, Don, if you want to.
Sure. Ellie and then Allison.
My hand is up for an unrelated reason. If I can make a comment after this topic.
Okay, Allison.
Yeah, sorry, I would support what Tom just said, putting an item on the agenda about how do we decide items on the agenda, but also what I wanted to say was the Google, so the 2 public comments that I put in for today on behalf of other teachers and students, the one about Infinite Campus is not going to be an issue by September because you guys will have already done your training and it's too late. But the one about how do students, what is our process for students to back up their Google Drive files is very important. It comes up every year. We used to use Google Takeout. We can't anymore. And I think the amount of time that it takes for stuff to happen in this district, if we were to put that on the agenda in September, that would be great because then maybe it could be settled by June. I would hope.
Okay, and Ellie or Trustee Prasad, were you wanting to speak?
Yeah, this is a good point that Tom brought up. In terms of agendizing, the board model is that we need to have at least 2 trustees, so which is like, let's say 40% of membership that needs to vote on a particular agenda item before it gets agendized. So are we saying that there's no such policy here at all?
We currently don't have a policy.
So I think for the sake of time, I think we should just plan on agendizing how to agendize things and just put that on the next agenda. Otherwise, we're going to be here till 9:30. And
yep, I would say that, and then can I ask Lucas, is there currently an outdated Chromebook Refresh program?
So good question, Tom. I have
Because
not
if it's
seen
already
that.
in a process, we don't need to talk about it. It would just be more of a CPU update versus a.
Yeah, so I've seen reference to a Chromebook replacement and a hardware refresh cycle. Looking back at historic meetings before I was in the district for the Technology Advisory Committee. However, I've never found anything documented with that. And of course, obviously, even if we put together a plan, there's got to be funding behind it. So certainly, I think it would make sense for the Technology Advisory Committee to develop a plan. I certainly have lots of ideas around that. But of course, ultimately, it comes down to funding, right? As to whether or not we can stay on track with that.
Okay.
all right, and Ellie.
And I apologize, I missed the boat on making a comment about this at the very beginning of the CTO update, but I wanted to say thank you to CTO Bogle for talking about needing to annually look at the student use of technology language and then pay specific attention to rephrasing items in positive student expectations. That's most certainly aligned with a lot of the positive behavior interventions and support work that different schools are making. And after all this is for the purpose of making sure that our students succeed. So I just wanted to say thank you. I think that's a great annual tradition to get into.
So unless anybody has objections, because we do want to move along here, how do we get something on the agenda? Chromebook conversation. And I would like to add, just because Lucas asked us, that at the first meeting, we actually put together a group to look at the policy, and that way it's institutionalized, that at the beginning of every year, the policy, then whether it, that whatever subgroup comes up, subcommittee begins looking at it, and then by long before May, they have any suggested changes and that. So I would think that 3 would be okay, unless there's any objections, putting those 3 on the agenda and postponing the VOIP email till the meeting after.
Also, a welcome to the student member. They will be voting too. That was a mention that I want to put out there.
And I do think it's worth listing in the future agenda items, Allison's senior Google Docs. We don't want to let that fall through the cracks. So at least if it's not going to be on the next one, put it on the future list so we can make sure to maybe get it onto October. Once in September, we learn how to get it onto October. How's that, Allison?
I would suggest we keep a backlog of agenda items and pick the top 3 that we want to discuss every time.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
All right, so that we'll talk about that next meeting. I think we can adjourn. We're 14 minutes over. I was really trying to help us stay on time, but I failed, so sorry about that. All right, everyone, have a good Monday night, and thanks to all our new members for joining, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, Don. Lucas, if you could stay on for a minute.
Thank you, Don.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoy the summer.